All right. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me well, even in the back? Yeah? OK. So welcome to the last day of NDC. I hope you're all excited for the last sessions that you're scheduled for today. Are you excited? Yeah? Good. All right. So welcome to my session. This is going to be about UNO platform and getting your applications running everywhere. My name is Martin Zikmund. I'm an open source developer, freelancer, and I'm also contributing to UNO platform since it became open source. So I want to share my passion for this platform with you and tell you why you should consider it for your next upcoming applications, or if you're modernizing some legacy applications and want to bring them to other platforms, that's also a great thing to do with UNO platform. So let's jump right in. And, oh, sorry, that's OK. All right, so let's start with what UNO platform really is. It's an open source framework which has been open source since 2018. It was actually open source at the Build conference at Microsoft. And it was basically an idea that came from Scott Hanselman, who suggested that to the CEO of Inventive, who was actually building this platform inside as an internal project to build applications for their customers. And Scott Hanselman suggested this idea of open sourcing this and making it an open platform that can be built in the open and used by everyone. So that happened at Build. And it's a UI framework that allows you to bring your single code-based applications to all platforms. So you just write your code once, and you bring it to Windows, Android, iOS, macOS, Linux, and even the web using WebAssembly. So you get to reach all the people on all the platforms, which is great. And the cool thing is that it's based on the same framework and APIs that you know and love, which is Windows APIs. So you just write a Windows application, and it runs everywhere without any changes and without any platform-specific code, in the ideal case, of course. So it's an open source framework which is there for the UI side of things, so you get a lot of UI controls out of the box. But also, it brings you much more, like non-UI APIs and many device-specific sensors and so on. I will show that all in later stages of the presentation, but just so you know, it's not just a UI framework, which is something that many people think. It's actually a wider platform that you can use. So let's don't waste any time and start with a demo right away. So I will switch here and open Visual Studio and show you a very simple application that's running UNO platform. It's a calculator application, which is kind of the holy grail of all demos. And it will show you just the basic look of a UNO platform app. I will start with Windows. Can you see the text, or should I increase it? OK, we'll increase it. Maybe let's do something even more drastic, and I will do this. Let's see. Is it better? Hopefully it is. Yeah, at least so you see the Solution Explorer and things, and I will, in any case, I can increase the size here so it's visible. So on the right side, you can see the list of platforms that UNO platform targets. And you can see that there is quite a few. I will expand it here. So there is Windows. There is mobile platforms, which contains Android, iOS, Mac Catalyst, which is the iOS version of Mac applications. And there is macOS itself. This is based on AppKit. And there is GTK, which is a framework that allows you to bring your desktop applications to Linux. So this allows you to run your application on Linux. There is Linux Frame Buffer, which is specifically targeting IoT devices. There is WPF, which you can bring your applications to Windows 7 or Windows 8 if you are supporting some legacy systems. And finally, there is WebAssembly, which allows you to bring your application to the web. So let's start with the most basic one, which is Windows, of course, because on Windows, there is essentially no UNO platform there, because you're just writing a basic Windows application. So it's all running against Windows APIs, and there is no UNO platform involved anywhere. So this is just a plain Windows application. I will just run it so that you can see how it looks on Windows. So here is the application running on Windows. I can see it. Maybe it's just a little bit too large. I will adjust this. Once again, make it this size, so it fits at least the window. So this is the calculator running on Windows. I can type things like this and calculate something. And it's just a plain Windows application. And the nice thing about it is that I can click here and switch to dark theme. And it's all built in. So I didn't have to write any platform-specific code to enable dark theme and write any UI-specific code to enable the buttons to be dark and these things. It's all built in for you. So you just use the built-in components, and they all support light and dark theme out of the box. So you can see that this is a Windows application, plain and simple, nothing too special there. It also handles like the resizing of the window to be narrower and wider and so on. So this is Windows. Nothing too exciting there. So let's switch to mobile. I will not be able to show you iOS and macOS and Mac Catalyst because those require you to have a Mac because you need to compile against Mac to be able to compile those proprietary Apple APIs. So I will just have to tell you that you have to trust me that it works. And instead, I will show Android because that's the mobile platform that I can show you on Windows. So I will run it on the emulator. And before it takes place, I will just show you that in the platform-specific projects, there is really no code at all. It's just things that are required to bootstrap the application. So like something that bootstraps the UNO platform system itself. But all your code, everything you write, will be in the shared library, which is this one. It's a class library project which contains all your code and all your UI and all your business logic. So you can put everything here, and it's going to be used by all the platform-specific projects. So technically, you will only touch the platform-specific projects in case you want to set up some icons or splash screens, and these things, kind of the branding of the application and the manifests of your application, so to speak. So the application is launching. Hopefully, it's going to happen soon. Android is kind of slower to build, so you have to bear with it. And once it loads, we should be able to see the exact same UI as we saw on Windows, but now running on Android. So it's deploying. Yeah, all right. Should be anytime now. Maybe good idea to increase the performance of the CPU. So best performance. All right. So now maybe it's going to be faster. So this is just a plain Android emulator, nothing special there. And the application should launch anytime now. It's taking a long time this time. All right, good. So the application is launching. And this is just a splash screen that you can customize yourself. And when it's up, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Android development is slow. All right, so we have Android application now in the emulator, and you can see it's exactly the same UI as we saw on Windows. Again, it behaves the same. And you can also notice it's using the material design from Google. So it's the ripple effect when you click it and so on. And that's because the application was set up to use material design. By default, there is Fluent design built in, and you can pick and switch and use whichever design you prefer on any platform. So in this case, we decided to use Android, and it looks like an Android application everywhere. So that's pretty nice that you can customize the UI this way. And again, I can switch the theme, and you can see it is now dark. And I can even rotate the display, and it will relay out, and you can see that. Oh, right. It's now running in vertical layout. So this is UNO platform running on Android. Again, the same UI, and that's the promise, that you have the same pixel-perfect UI on all the platforms, and you are in full control of how your application looks everywhere. So now let's switch to Linux. And I will actually run this on Windows subsystem for Linux, directly on Ubuntu running on this machine. So when I run it, this will run in the subsystem, and the application should again have the same UI, but it will be running on Ubuntu instead of on Windows. So let's wait for it to load. Keep this open for now. Right. So this is a Ubuntu application, and you can see that's the same UI again, and I can do the same thing as before. So calculate something, and so on, and also switch between dark and light theme as I please. The good thing is that Uno platform supports also the detection of themes. So if your OS is running in dark theme, it will automatically start up with dark theme. And that means that your user will feel right at home because it will feel like part of the system, not just a separate application. All right, I will skip WPF. It's not that interesting. It's basically just for Windows 7 and Windows 8. And instead, I will jump right into WebAssembly, which is probably the most interesting target for Uno platform users because it allows you to target the web, which is something .NET developers didn't really have a chance to do unless they learned some of the web technologies. So yeah, WebAssembly allows you to target the web with just C# and XAML without learning anything web-related. So that's pretty nice. So here is the calculator running on the WebAssembly target. I can, again, do the same things as before, calculate something. It behaves exactly the same as on all the other platforms. And you can see that it's just a web application. And of course, if I switch the theme, you can see it's now dark or light, whatever you choose. So this is all running on the client directly in the browser, and I can prove it to you by opening the console here. And if I expand this a little bit, in the network tab, when I do some calculations, there is no network communication going on. It's just running on the client directly. It's just C# code. And further proof of that is that if I refresh the website, you can see that all the classic .NET thingies are loaded, like system runtime, system private core lib, system I/O pipes, and so on. All of that coming from .NET is loaded into the client, and then it's all running there without any further network communication. So it also can run on offline mode without having to have any connection to the internet, which is nice. All right, so let's switch back to the slides and continue with a kind of explanation what Uno platform can give you out of the box. So first off, of course, the UI, because there is it's a framework that's based first and foremost on the UI. So it gives you access to many UI controls out of the box. Actually, it's hundreds of them. Not only those which are built into Windows, but also some additional ones which you find in Uno Platform Toolkit. It's not just enterprise-grade UI, it's also customer-grade UI. It's something that's used by customer applications that are already deployed in stores, and it's battle-tested because it was used for many years inside of Inventive to build customer applications. As I mentioned, it supports dark and light themes, also multiple different theming options like design systems. So for example, Fluent system from Microsoft, Material Design from Google, and also Cupertino design, which is based on iOS and macOS. Finally, you can also customize anything that you please. So if you don't like the default themes and would want to make your application look like completely something else, maybe Windows 95, you can do that because you can control all the templates and change them completely. So each control is by default lookless, and only by applying a style or theme, you make it look like something completely different. So that's pretty nice, and you are in full control of all your UI. So here's some examples of the UI controls that you are given. Some are from Windows directly. And actually, that's a nice thing, because we have the same API surface as Microsoft. So in many cases, we are able to take Microsoft source code, translate it from C++ to C# and just put it into UNO platform. So we have the same complete coverage of all the APIs and all the methods, all the events, and all the features that all the controls that are built in have. And you can be sure that if you use something, it's working everywhere, which is pretty cool and useful. A good example of that is the tree view, which is kind of a complex control, which gives you like tree structure with hierarchy and so on, and selection and so on. And this control was ported from the open source WinUI library directly into UNO platform. And we ported not only the control, but also the UI tests and unit tests. So everything is tested and running in the CI when we release new versions. So that avoids any regressions and things like that. So that's pretty nice and useful. And also, a quite interesting thing is that Microsoft has provided the team with access to some private sources. So in some cases, if you want to see how things work in Windows, it's a good place to go to UNO platform and find the source code there, because it's not really open source on Microsoft's side, but they allowed us to open source it in the C# version. So, for example, focus management on Windows, like tabbing and shift tabbing, that's directly from Microsoft, but it's not really open source, except it is in UNO platform. So the other things, we also have third-party support for controls like Windows Community Toolkit that provides additional controls like data grid and so on. And Infragistics and SyncFusion provide charting controls that you can use in all the targets of UNO platform. And to make your application look more alive, you can also use Lottie on Rive. Both of these are supported on all the targets, so you can make beautiful fluid animations. And if you don't fancy anything of that, you can write your own animations using the animation system that's built into UNO platform directly. Finally, from some other UI features which are quite important, accessibility is built in right into UNO platform, so you just write it in XAML, and it's used correctly using the native accessibility features on the targets. And then you have localization, which is again shared. You just write your localization once, and it's automatically applied everywhere. And you can do many other things, like embed native controls. If you have some mapping control, for example, or some very specific thing that works only on Android, you can do that. You can just plug it in specifically on Android, and it will not be displayed on the other targets, and so on. So that's kind of very wide range of features that are available. And I can show that to you live on this gallery application. Let me open that in the browser. So gallery.platform.uno. You can open that on your mobile devices, on your tablets, and you can try it out there. Or you can also download this application from the Google Play Store and App Store on iOS. So this application kind of showcases all the controls that UNO platform offers. Well, not all of them, but most of them. And you can see all those controls in 3 different themes. So you can see them in material design, which is kind of the based on Android, with the ripple effect and so on. And then there is Fluent Design, which is based on Microsoft's design language. And finally, Cupertino, which is based on iOS design, so plain text-only buttons and so on. And of course, you can switch between themes, so I can switch here. So you can switch to dark theme and see everything in dark theme as well. And there is a lot of things to see there, so you can just go through it on yourself. But you can get an idea of what UNO platform offers and what it can give you, like rating control, for example, is built in, and many other things. All right. Something interesting maybe to mention is acrylic. Acrylic brush is a feature that allows you to blur the background of a UI control. And actually, this brush is available even on macOS. And in case of macOS, you can blur the background of the window. So you can have partially see-through window without writing any platform-specific code, which is pretty useful. right. So now let's see some of the non-UI APIs as well, because as I mentioned, UNO platform is not only about UI controls and UI features. It's also about non-UI, the platform agnostic access to device-specific APIs like sensors and geolocator, maybe jump list, anything like that. It's built in, so you don't have to write any platform-specific code. You just write Windows APIs, and it works across all the targets. And again, for that, I have a simple demo on this URL I will show you here. It's cat.ly/APIs. You can open that on your mobile devices. And I will just go through some of the most interesting ones. So for example, here is Network Information API, which gives you the information if you're connected or not. So let me switch to some normal display here. How do I do it? Right, here. So currently I'm connected, of course. So if I check for connectivity, I am connected. That's good. And if I click Observe Connectivity, I can get notified in C# whenever connectivity changes. So if I switch here from no throttling to offline, you can see that the application immediately notices that we're disconnected, and we can then adjust the UI in some way. This is very important for applications which are working with some API. So if you're connecting to some API and getting some data, you can use this API to disable some buttons or let the user know that some actions will be not available. So that's pretty useful and important for mobile applications. And it's just C#, so you don't have to write any platform-specific code, and it works across all the targets. Next up would be geolocator. So let me click this button, and this should give me my current geoposition. So you have to wait for it a little bit because this PC does not really have a GPS, so it's estimating the coordinates. But yeah, this is my current latitude and longitude with accuracy of 1 kilometer, not really that accurate. But it works better on a mobile device, of course. So now for accelerometer. Accelerometer is an API that gives you the kind of the position of your device in space. You may know that from the old iOS games where you tilted the device to move the ball across some map and so on. So if I click Observe Accelerometer Events here, I can move the device, and you can see that the numbers are changing as I move the PC. So the nice thing is that this is a web application. So this is using the API that's built into every browser, the accelerometer API. So I don't really have to write any platform-specific code again. It's just C# talking to the browser using this accelerometer API. So let's do something more daring. Maybe speech recognizer is a good example. Hopefully it's going to work. So hello world. Right, so this is speech recognizer. It's an API that translates what you say into text. So this works, again, across multiple platforms, and you can use it just from C#. You don't have to write any platform-specific code. My favorite API that I unfortunately cannot really show you right now is MIDI. It's an API that allows you to talk to musical instruments that are connected via USB or Bluetooth to the device. You can test this at home if you have a digital piano or something like that, or you can see the YouTube sample on the website, which will point you to a video where I show it. It's very fun because it's the musical instrument is talking to your device, to your browser, and then the browser's APIs actually are using underneath the Windows APIs for MIDI, which are exactly the same as the ones that you use in UNO platform to enable a MIDI. So it's kind of an Inception-like scenario where UNO platform has the same APIs which are translated to MIDI.js, and then the JavaScript is translated back to Windows APIs. kind of interesting and fun to understand how it works. And the nice thing is that, again, it works on all platforms. So you just write one single kind of code, which runs on WebAssembly, Android, iOS, macOS, and Windows the same way, which is pretty cool. All right, next up is Gamepad, which is kind of a recent addition that allows you to talk to a game controller. So if I connect this Xbox controller here, you can see that it showed up on the screen, and I can move the sticks and press buttons, and it actually shows up there. So you can now use Uno platform to build games or game-like applications where you use game controllers or multiple game controllers to control something. And again, fully cross-platform, so the same way it works on Android, on iOS, and even macOS. So that's fully cross-platform API. So next up is file system, which is kind of a surprising one, because usually when you're in a browser, you can only download and upload files, not really work with files on your file system. But now, with the latest web file system access APIs, you can actually work with your file system directly. So in this case, I selected my pictures folder, and you can see it listed the files that are in that folder on my device. So if I go there, you can see that the same list of files is now here. And that's because the browser got access or permission to read that folder, and now I can get the files and actually work with them. So I can create a new file like hello.txt, which created the file here. And I can even write to that file. So if I select it here and write something like hello NDC, I can click write to file. And now in the file, you can see that there is hello NDC written there. So this is very cool and allows you to build fully cross-platform project management software, for example, which accesses file system even in the browser, and that's super powerful. We have a company called Kawa, which is building project management software, and they exactly use this feature to access their local files and work with them inside of the browser as they were modernizing their desktop application, which is super powerful and enables many new scenarios. All right, there we have ambient light sensor, and I will use my phone here to show you what it can do. Let me just run flashlight. So my flashlight is on, and if I bring it closer, you can see that the lux value is increasing as I bring it closer, and farther it's decreasing. So this is just that you can use ambient light sensor of the device right in the browser, and again, fully cross-platform, so you can use it on other platforms as well. And what I will now do is I will switch to my phone, actually, and that's going to be even more adventurous. So what you have seen now, I was using my flashlight, and it was because I was using flashlight API in Uno platform. So you can see that this is actually using Uno platform APIs in the same application running on Android. And there are other things like vibration. If I click vibrate, you cannot see hear it probably, but it's vibrating the device, so you can use vibration. And because this is Surface Duo, which has the foldable displays, you can use APIs like hinge angle, which shows you the current angle of the device. So this is, again, a Windows API, which is for foldable devices, but it's running on Android and showing you the current angle of the screens. So this was kind of the rundown of most interesting non-UI APIs that you can find in Uno platform. And you can rest assured that in writing this application, there was no platform-specific code used. So that's pretty nice. All right, let's switch back to the slides and continue with kind of the explanation of what UNO platform is overall. It's, we've seen many things that, like theming and dark theme and light theme and these things. You're not forced to do anything of that. It's completely modular. If you prefer your application to be written in XAML or in C#, you can choose each of those languages. You're not forced to write XAML. You can choose any IDE. You can write in Visual Studio Code, or even Rider. You can use any architecture for UI, be it MVVM or MVU. And also there are escape hatches built in. So you can write native code and platform-specific code whenever you need it. So let me show you one more demo here. It's for hot reload, because that's a very important feature for developers when they are writing code. Because you want to see your application changing when you're making changes to your UI. And I have a very simple project here that can showcase that. So I will run this. It's a very plain UNO platform application, just basically hello world, which contains a text block. Let me increase this. Text block, which is a text display, and then a button which does something on its click handler. And when I run this application on Windows, I will put this side by side. All right. So the application I will put here on the side, and I will now be making changes to the UI just to show you that you can do runtime changes to the UI itself. So when I see red, set red. Oh, sorry. I need to. Okay. Oh, it didn't work. That's that's a nice surprise. So let's do one more thing. Maybe I forgot to rebuild here. Let me rebuild, because I was making changes before. Maybe it didn't pick up on those. So now let's run it again. Hopefully it will work now. So when you have the application running side by side and do some change here, it doesn't work. So that's kind of a typical demo got revenge situation. Well, it usually works, except for this case. So let's try a different platform. Maybe that's some kind of Windows-specific problem. Okay, I will try Android. And if that doesn't work, then I will just say it's because of demo goats not being helpful today. So let's see. The Android application. And yeah, the rebuild taking a little bit of time, so I'll let it finish. Well, in the meantime, I can show you that this specific application is just using XAML and code behind. There is no MVVM framework built in. But you can extend your application to use MVVM or MVU. There are options for that, and there are libraries that allow you to do that very quickly. All right, so the application is now built. I will switch to Android and run it on the tablet. And hopefully it will work this time. Right. Okay.
So you would expect it to work without hitting the hot reload button?
Yes. For the UI, yes. For the UI, it usually works. I mean, on the Windows side, we really don't have any influence. So the fact that it didn't work, it's not really a fault of UNO platform. It's rather a fault of Microsoft that they broke something. If it doesn't work here, then it's our problem. So let's see. I will try to do a change in the XAML. And yeah, so you can see that in the case of UNO platform, it works. So the good thing is that this is now showing up. I will just switch here to blue. Again, save changes, and it automatically is applied to the emulator. And the same thing goes for the C# hot reload. So if I click here, you can see it's increasing by 1. But if I change the value to 100, for example, and now I have to click hot reload because it's C# code change, it should, okay. It didn't. All right, so that is another different problem, but okay, I wasn't really lucky with this demo. What we should see usually is that when we change the value in C# code and press the hit hot reload button, it shouldn't throw this dialog, and it should change the value, and then clicking the button should increase the value by 100, which is what's going to happen now, but it's not really that exciting when it's not hot reloading. So yeah. So in any case, it seems like this is mainly a problem of Visual Studio because I made an update which wasn't smart, probably. But, oh well, usually it should work, and you should get the same experience on all the targets. So whenever, whatever you target, so for example, GTK on Ubuntu or WebAssembly, you can do the same XAML hot reload and C# hot reload changes. All right, so let's switch back here and continue here. So UNO platform gives you access to both XAML and C# markup. We are actually working with something that's coming soon. I'm not really going to spoil it, but it's going to allow you to write everything you can imagine in XAML in C# as well. And we have also kind of an extended version of the model view update design pattern called MVUX, which extends the MVU pattern with some code generation, which makes working with MVU even better and more efficient than with the classic MVU in other platforms that you know of, like I think MAUI has MVU version. So this is kind of an extension on top of that. And when you're not satisfied with anything that UNO platform offers you directly, you can use native APIs. And you can use that both in case of UI and non-UI APIs. So if you want to use some very specific Android API, maybe widgets, you can do that. It's built in, and it's supported. It's just that you have to write platform-specific code to achieve that, and that code will not work on the other platforms. So you just exclude it from compilation for those other targets. UNO platform itself is this wide range of things, but it has additional extensions on top of it. And in this case, I'm talking about UNO platform extensions, which is a library that's provided as a first-party extension. And it gives you kind of bootstrapping components that you can use to more quickly build your application. So there is things like dependency injection, networking, extensions for safe area viewing, and so on. All of that is built in, and you just pick those things and plug it into your applications quite easily without writing that complicated code yourself. And one of the most important extensions there is navigation, because navigation is the most complicated thing in mobile development, and we made it a little bit easier with these abstractions that allow you to display UI in a more succinct manner, and even extends to dialogues and things like that. So navigation extensions are part of the extensions package. Finally, if you are building an application that is cross-platform, you need a great UI, and for that purpose, we have Figma. Figma plugin for UNO platform allows you to avoid those common problems that you have when you're designing your application. Because you can, of course, write your design by copying it from a design file manually as a developer, but it's more annoying because you have to understand the design side of things more. And if you were to hand it off to someone who is proficient in both design and code, it means that you need more team members that are capable of that. So it's kind of in a not ideal situation. And the best thing would be if you were able to directly export the design from Figma to the code. And that's what the UNO platform plugin for Figma does. So specifically, the UNO platform plugin for Figma gives you access to all the components in UNO platform and a live preview plugin that shows you the UI directly within Figma. And then, when you're satisfied with your design, you export it into XAML and just copy-paste it in your application without having to write any platform-specific code or without having to write the design manually. So I will show that to you in a demo here. So I will run Figma. I'm not really proficient with Figma. I just used it several times, so I will just show you some basics. But for those who are more advanced with Figma, it will be right like being at home. And the good thing is that the designer doesn't have to know how to code. It's just for them to design and then export those designs manually. So here we have an example screen of an e-commerce application. And I will click on Plugins, UNO Platform Figma, which opens this UNO Platform design window within Figma. It's actually a WebAssembly application running within Figma. And if I click here on Preview, you should see the same screen that I selected here in a live preview within WebAssembly application. So this is an actual WebAssembly app running within Figma. And I can click here and write something, and it behaves like a normal application, because it is. It's just the XAML that you selected running live within the previewer. And when I'm satisfied with that, I can export that code directly from here by copying this and pasting it into my application. So you just design, and then you export it when you are ready. And of course, if I make some changes here, so I can select here and switch to outline, for example, now the design should be different. So if I click here, you can see that now it's using the outlined version of the text box input control. And of course, if you have something more complicated, like lists, you can also provide data context. So here we have JSON file, which allows you to specify the list items in the preview. So if I refresh, you should see those items showing up here. So those are the same items that are defined within this JSON. So this is pretty powerful and gives you the ability to cooperate with designers directly without having to write this design code yourself. And you just get the final result for free, and it just works. So that's pretty cool. Right. So let's finish up with just explaining some productivity of UNO platform beyond the UI and non-UI APIs. So in case of performance itself, we are using the latest and greatest advancements in .NET. So on both mobile side and web side, we are able to do AOT, we are able to do XAML trimming, and all the performance enhancements that allow you to make your application run faster. And we are active community participants, so there are many contributors. We are participating in contributing to Microsoft products when we find some bugs. And we also have a cooperation with multiple open source projects like the Community Toolkit and so on. So that's kind of the promise that UNO platform is here to stay, because it's very tightly woven with the community itself. And of course, it's also easy to start with. There are many resources that you can use to get started with UNO platform, including our docs, which were recently rewritten to contain all the details on all the offerings that UNO platform has. And there are also some books and video courses that you can find on the internet, so you can learn from other kinds of sources as well. Finally, UNO platform as an open source project needs to be sustainable, and it's sustained by clients. We have a lot of clients of the Inventive company, which is kind of the parent company of UNO platform, who is building applications using UNO platform for clients. And there are also paying clients who are provided priority support, priority technical support for their applications, which is, for example, Kawa or TradeZero. Those are like bigger companies that want their issues and technical problems fixed as fast as possible. And this way, UNO platform is staying alive and getting sustained. So that's it from this. And I have one more demo here, maybe something you know as .NET developers. If I go to NuGet.org as the package explorer for .NET, and I will search for, let's search for something more common, like JSON. If I click on a package, on the right side, you can find NuGet Package Explorer. And if you click that link, it will take you to a WebAssembly application that analyzes that package and shows you the contents and metadata of the package. And this application is actually a UNO platform app. And it kind of shows you the power of productivity applications that can be built with UNO platform. So you have this tree structure that shows you the contents of the package. And if I select something, you can see the metadata of the package showing up on the right side with assembly description and so on. There is PDB info, metadata references, and also PDB sources. So this way you can browse any NuGet package without having to download it and unzipping it and going through it yourself, which is kind of nice. And you can even open your local files using this open command. So you load a NuGet package, it will extract it and show you the contents. So this is a very nice productivity tool for developers that you can use actually in daily work. And it's a good example of modernization because NuGet Package Explorer was originally a desktop application written in WPF. And with Claire Novotny, we just took it and rewritten it using UNO platform without that many changes. It's using most of the original code because it was the same XAML, it was the same C#, so it's just the same application, just now running on the web with a more modern UI. All right. So that's it from my slides. Basically, the ultimate takeaway from this is that UNO platform is the platform that gives you the ultimate reach and productivity as a developer. So you can reach all the users on all the systems, and you can use all the productivity features that that is bringing you. So thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. And there is a microphone here. So if you come up here, it's going to be recorded on the video, or I will just repeat the question as needed. So thank you very much. No questions? Oh, I can see.
Woody generic question, which is what's the performance like of C# code running within UNO in the various environments? Obviously, it's in a web browser, it's running within a WASM.
Yeah.
So how does that affect the performance of C#? If you've got some sort of C# that's for some reason it's quite unusual, but CPU hungry.
Yeah.
I admit this is very unusual. Most things are just UI and service, the core server side things. It's an unusual scenario. But do you have a feel for what the performance is like?
So the question is, what is the performance hit of having C# running in the browser?
Or even on like Android.
Or even Android, okay. Yeah, okay, so like it depends, It's kind of a hard question to answer because the performance depends on how you compile it often. So if you compile it with full jitter, like just-in-time compilation on WebAssembly or on Android, it means that your application will be slower. It will be smaller in size, but it will be slower, so the performance hit at runtime will be there. But you can then do more progressive AOT compilation, and when you do that, it will get more and more performant, and the assembly will get a little bit bigger, of course. So if you do partial AOT so you AOT the most performance-intensive parts of the application. Those will run very performantly, and it will be like very close to the performance on the metal, I think. It's not going to be that much slower. And if you do full AOT, it's going to be very fast. So in that case, you are looking at kind of similar performance as you have on desktop, I would say.
Does full AOT mean you've got a separate binary, something part of each platform?
Basically, yeah, if you do AOT, you have to do it using the platform-specific AOT capabilities of .NET. But it's built into .NET. We're using only .NET and nothing like platform-specific, like UNO platform-specific there. So the performance improvements in .NET will then be brought into UNO platform automatically. For example, now with .NET 6 versus .NET 7, there was a lot of performance enhancement, especially on the WebAssembly side. For example, in WebAssembly .NET 6, you couldn't do threading. And now in .NET 7, you can do threading. So you can have multiple threads running at the same time. And because we upgraded to .NET 7, we have now the same benefit in UNO platform just by upgrading. So that's pretty nice. And it will get even better with future versions. For example, Microsoft is working on better trimming of the assemblies, so it will get small. The .NET that you are bringing in with your application will get smaller because it will be able to throw out everything that you don't really need and use. So, yeah. Okay. If there are no other questions, then I will let you go to the next session. There are stickers and T-shirts if you want. So if you want one of those, come to me and I will give you one of the T-shirts or stickers. So thank you very much again. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Bye-bye.